Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Here, our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Memorial Day is Monday. We won't be here on Monday. So we're going to celebrate Memorial Day, not just Monday, but right now. And do what I've done for 22 years. Honor our fallen heroes. Now, that won't be the entire show, but we do so through music, through patriotism. The Marines!
Mark Levin.
You know, folks, China, Russia, Iran, they're all on the move. Right here in the U.S., you've got inflation, you have open borders, and, of course, an election year. Oh, and we just crossed over $34 trillion in debt with no signs of slowing down. It's time to wake up, folks. There's a lot at risk, possibly even your retirement account. The time to protect yourself is before a crisis, not after. Advantage Gold, the gold and silver company I recommend to help Americans. Well, they'll help you prepare now for times just like these. Call them at 800-900-8000 today. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. Call Advantage Gold today. Here's the number, 800-900-8000. Plus, see if you qualify to get your special discount worth up to $1,300 today, 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. President Trump is a great patriot. I told you before, he's a historic figure. And his appearance in the Bronx was absolutely fabulous. Several thousand people turned out. And I know it was fabulous because look at these headlines that came out this morning. All I did was I Googled the name Trump. CNN, top Republicans are already rushing to buy into Trump's 2024 election fraud narrative. New York Times, Trump's pattern of sowing election doubt intensifies in 2024. Washington Post, Trump again praises authoritarian leaders at Bronx rally. NBC News, are Russia and North Korea planning an October surprise that aids Trump? And it went on and on and on. So they pulled out all the usual lies, all the arrows, and they shot them all at once. And this is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's going to be. Trump again praises authoritarian leaders at the Bronx. Here we have an administration that embraces Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and they don't say crap. Not a damn thing. And as far as Trump sowing election doubt intensifies, we should have a lot of election doubt because this administration is using taxpayer dollars, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bureaucrats to register Democrats, their demographic, with our tax dollars in violation of federal law. Oh, Mark, what do you mean? We have cities that are trying to register illegal aliens to vote. The House of Representatives passed a law, it still has to go to the Senate. We know Schumer will kill it, to prevent illegal aliens from voting anywhere, local, state, or federal. And the vast majority of Democrats voted against it. We're not fools. When you have these a-holes or Meet the Press on CNN and everything else, these clowns, these clods, these thugs for the Democrat Party, will you accept the winner 2024? Hell no, if it's not a correct election. This is a democracy. You don't just accept the outcome. You get to criticize it. You get to look at it. You get to study it. You get to challenge it. These damn fools don't even understand the country we live in. I can't think of any election that's never been challenged. Since the earliest election after Washington, with Adams and Jefferson. But the media insist that we go along with what they demand. It's not a media, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a media. These are propagandists for the state. These are propagandists for the Democrat Party. That's all they are. And why some Republicans submit to their idiotic, asinine questions, they might as well knock on the door of the DNC and say, can I talk to your communications director here? Bring the camera over here. We're going to do an interview. So the media, they take Trump's speech. He's authoritarian. He wants to create an army of citizens against migrants. He wants to this, he wants to that. And yet story after story about how Joe Biden is using our tax dollars to buy votes. Hell, he's using the bureaucracy to register voters. Story after story. Why the hell do you think the border's open? So you can get more congressional districts. That's number one. And we're all supposed to play along. Why are there drop boxes? They were there for COVID. We don't need them anymore because they help the Democrats. If they help the Republicans, they get rid of them. Why is it that you don't have to sign and date an envelope that you mail in for absentee ballot? Why? Because it would hurt the Democrat vote. That's why. Everything they do is intended to expand and enshrine their power. Everything. Here's President Trump, briefly. In the Bronx yesterday. Now, I'd play Joe Biden in the Bronx, but he hasn't been there yet. And you'll note, Mr. Producer, I said that Joe Biden can't show up in Republican areas, including Palestine, Ohio. Have you noticed that's been discussed all over cable TV today? Have you seen that? Hey, guess what? What? Cut 7, go.
We had the greatest economy in history. Everybody here, where you have a small business or if you had a job, you were getting more than you ever made. And we had no inflation. We had no 1.4%, considered none, considered better than none, because frankly, none in its own way is a bad thing also. We had a perfect number, 1.4%. It doesn't matter whether you're black or brown or white or whatever the hell color you are, it doesn't matter. We are all Americans, and we're going to pull together as Americans.
Americans want to feel good about their country. They want to feel good about each other. They can't stand this constant attack, this constant divisiveness. The attempt by the politicians of the media to turn one race against another. We're sick and damn tired of it. I'll be right back. You know, folks, we've got an awful lot swirling around this country, both internally and externally. We've got wars going on in all parts of the world. We've got riots effectively going on in our colleges and universities. We have inflation through the roof. It's an election year to boot. All these problems are often huge tailwinds for gold, which is why gold is at all-time highs, looking like it's going to go higher. And when it comes to gold, I only trust my friends at Advantage Gold. They help Americans just like you protect your retirement accounts and help safeguard your wealth through diversification. So call them right now. 800-900-8000. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit plus a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. Call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. See if you qualify to get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 today. Performance may vary. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, the great one.
The great one, Mark Levin.
Dial in now, 877-381-3811.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when the reprobate at the Holocaust-denying, Stalin-supporting, Castro-installing New York Slimes started with its little flag story, the moment I saw it, I knew it was taking place, and I shared it with you. The flag story would be used to attack the man who wrote the Dobbs decision. Sam Alito, one of the most ethical and decent human beings you'll ever meet, and a genius. That means he's a danger to those who hate America and hate the Republic. And so they're trying to intimidate him, they're trying to smear him, and then we have another flag story. Apparently now, flying the flag that George Washington flew, and that was flown during the Revolutionary War, now demonstrates that you're a white supremacist, Klansman, insurrectionist. On the other hand, if you burn the American flag and replace it with the Palestinian flag, that's free speech, and you need to be heard. We're not fooled by the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost. We're not fooled by the Constipated News Network and MSLSD. We're not fooled by the pieces of crap who write for the pieces of crap. They don't affect us. But then, of course, the Democrats use it because they're all in cahoots. Little Dick Durbin from the state of Illinois. Little Dick Durbin, better known as Mr. Sleazeball. Low IQ, little dick, sleazeball. He writes a letter with Sheldon Whitehouse, who's obviously a racist because the word white is in his last name. But he's also a damnable... Watch it, Mark. That's why sometimes you want to just do podcasting, you know, Mr. Producer? He talks like this. Like this. And he was involved in the Kavanaugh case. The Democrats are poison. They're a cancer on the body politic. They're hemorrhoics. They're bleeding hemorrhoics. Sheldon Whitehouse is a putz. Mr. But we've never invited him on. Can you invite Mr. Whitehouse on the program Tuesday? Little Dick Durbin, he knows who we are. He's not going to come on. So they wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of the United States. That's the title in the Constitution for John Roberts. Not the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the United States. And they demand answers. How can it possibly be that Sam Alito can rule on matters involving elections when he flew the flag that George Washington flew during the Revolutionary War, when his wife, for about a split second, had the American flag upside down in response to a neighbor, a radical kook, Marxist puke, who had a sign that said F Trump, 50 feet from a school bus stop for little kids. And so this is how they create a story. It's called propaganda. Stalin was good at it. Hitler was good at it. Mao's good at it. Castro. The Iranians are good at it. The North Koreans are good at it. The Venezuelans are good at it. And, of course, the New York Times is expert at it. The New York Times. How can any serious person work for a newspaper that is responsible for promoting Stalin, that covers up the Holocaust, that installs Fidel Castro, that takes the side of Hamas against Israel? How can anybody work for some sickening corporation like that? Well, Jody Cantor can. Jody Cantor has a tip line. Anybody else have photos of flags she wants to see? No. Not the Palestinians. No. So on January 6th, some people carried those flags, apparently, when they went into the Capitol building. So now we're not allowed to carry them. Now, this is sick. So they're at war with Clarence Thomas. They're at war with Sam Alito. And from time to time, they're at war with Neil Gorsuch. Not a word about Sotomayor and her multi-million-dollar shakedown for her useless book when she went to book signings and gave speeches. Not a word about that from little Dick Durbin and Sheldon Whitehouse. No, not a word. No letters, no concerns. And you see, this is also an effort to destroy respect for the Supreme Court as they destroy any institution that they don't devour, that they don't own, that they don't control. They have to destroy it. And the only time the Supreme Court will really be good again is when we have every form of Marxist bastard sitting in those 9 seats. Because they know there's some tough decisions being made, and they want to be prepared to say they're not legitimate. Biden's done it his whole life. Stupid, plagiarist, racist, anti-Semitic, kook Joe Biden. But now we have an opinion. The Constipated News Network went to an expert professor, and they got an answer that I'm sure they didn't want. The man's name is Michael Brody. I have no idea who he is, but so be it. Professor at Emory University School of Law, teaches legal and judicial ethics. And they write, the views expressed in this commentary are his own, not CNN's. They're his own. Well, of course, because he's going to make some sense. And so let me respond. He writes, less than 2 weeks after rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's lawn displayed an upside-down American flag. Can you believe we're even discussing this? Can you even believe we're discussing this? Luckily, he didn't have one of those antique statues there, you know, with the guy holding the ring and all the rest, which are disgusting. But luckily, he didn't. The New York Times reported this week the upside-down U.S. flag had become a symbol of the Stop the Steal movement. Not the Marxist movement, not the Hamas movement, not the Islamist movement, not the Hitler Youth movement. No, the Stop the Steal movement. Oh, well, that's more horrendous than anything that's ever happened. When asked about it, Alito replied in an email to the Times that he had no involvement whatsoever in the flying of the flag, and it was briefly placed by Mrs. Alito in response to a neighbor's use of objectionable and personally insulting language on yard signs. And the New York Times didn't really focus in. They did it in passing that this neighbor is some kind of a brute, and he used the C word against Mrs. Alito. And all the women's groups are very upset. Have you noticed that, Mr. Producer? All the women's groups have taken to the streets. No, they haven't. They don't care. They don't care about women anymore. They're going to vote for Biden, even though he's destroyed Title IX, even though he's a hair sniffer and a woman massager, even with strangers. The guy is a pervert. Pervert. Just like this Judge Merchan, who's Stormy Daniels. He's attentive. His eyes are wide open. His hands are on his chin, listening to every word that comes out of her mouth. Oh, it's all relevant. I got to hear this. I got to hear this. Anyway, he said, I don't support flying the American flag upside down, particularly when it evokes the cause of the rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol, blah, 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 blah. But despite holding that view, I believe the calls from Democratic leaders, like little Dick Durbin and Sheldon racist Whitehouse and others for Lee to recuse himself from the cases about the January 6th attack and the 2020 election that are pending before the court are wrong. The mistake these calls make is threefold. Neither the precedent, nor the law, nor the facts mandate recusal. Well, that sounds like a trifecta. Precedent first. In 2016, he writes, the late, great Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Was she a god of some sort, Mr. Producer? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was she a god? Ooh. RBG. Did a whole movie on her, He says, in a series of interviews called then-candidate Donald Trump a fake and more, saying, I can't imagine what this place would be. I can't imagine what the country would be with Donald Trump as our president. I can. It was a great 4 years. She also shared that she would consider moving to New Zealand. Why didn't she? If he won, he did and she didn't. While she eventually expressed regret for her comment, she continued to sit on numerous cases in which Trump was a named party in the Supreme Court, both as president and as a private citizen. Did little Dick Durbin of Illinois, did he write a letter? Did he make the keep that? I didn't get you tell her to recuse. Of course not. Of course not. He's a thug, this little freak. Obviously, Justice Ginsburg felt that her impartiality could not be reasonably questioned, even if she told everyone Trump was a faker and cast other aspersions. While many protested her remarks, I was one of the few to call for her to even consider recusing herself. From all cases involving Trump, she did not end up stepping aside from a single case in which he was named. This precedent, therefore, does not direct justices to recuse themselves, even if they publicly share a view on a political matter, a politician that then comes before the court. Secondly, in his three-prong analysis, the law simply does not require it. Having an opinion on either the facts or the law in a matter of public interest do not disqualify justice. After all, what's amazing about this, I'm going to continue to read it, but the seriousness with which little Dick Durbin and Sheldon racist Whitehouse are being taken. These are unserious thugs. Voicing opinions on matters of public interest is also something justices do outside the courthouse from time to time. Even if one could show that any given justice thought the election was or was not stolen, that has nothing to do with the legal questions raised in the court about the charge of obstruction against the rioters, such as whether a joint session of Congress is actually an official act under the statute charged. Justices speak about the reality as they see it all the time. They write books, as a matter of fact. Sotomayor wrote a book. She was doing shakedowns all the time. She made millions. And it does not legally prevent them from interpreting the statutes that they consider. Think about, for example, Justice Elena Kagan. Uh-oh. You mentioned one of the three. Uh-oh. That's a dangerous rail you do not touch. Elena Kagan, the godlike figure, a goddess. Just because of her beauty, Mr. Producer. But her brain's unbelievable. Justice Elena Kagan's fine lecture on textualism at Harvard Law School in 2015. having spoken about textualism, the idea that the text of the U.S. Constitution speaks for itself as the written word, she is surely not precluded from addressing the issues from the bench as a justice. Different rules would risk turning justices into monks, isolated from the north, like Justice Souter. I think he was a monk. He always, I found him always creepy. May I say that? I think I did. Different rules would risk turning justices into monks, isolated from the normal give and take of discourse. American law is clear. If a rioter were a close relative of a justice, recusal would be required. And the same is true if a justice or their family had a financial stake in the guilt or innocence of a party. But having an opinion on whether the election was really stolen does not mandate recusal, and neither does sharing that opinion, although such sharing is unusual for justices and generally unwise. The third prong of his analysis, may I say, the most important. The facts don't support recusal. Alito denies hanging the upside-down flag and connects it to a personal dispute between his wife and an unnamed neighbor. No one disputes this account, and we do not disqualify a justice or a judge based on the conduct or opinions of their spouse, other than on financial matters. Even if the justice's wife had a clear opinion on the election of 2020, recusal would not be mandated. Countless judges and justices have had spouses who have been involved in advocacy and have had clear and firm opinions, such as Circuit Judge Stephen Reinhardt, radical leftist, who was married to Ramona Ripston, radical leftist of the American Criminal Liberties Union, and Nina Pillard, who was married to David Cole, the National Legal Director of the ACLU. They have not recused themselves from hearing cases where their spouse had views, and Richard Reinhardt's case even filed a brief. Oh. How about that, little Dick Durbin? How about that, Sheldon? May I call you Shelley? Shelley racist White House? In this case, Alito says his wife had a special dispute, or a social dispute, rather, with a neighbor. Certainly disqualification of Alito based on the dispute between his wife and an unnamed neighbor is uncalled for. This is an even simpler case than that of Justice Clarence Thomas. Yeah, right. Always with Clarence. The Times reported on another flag, the pine tree flag, sometimes called the Appeal to Heaven flag. Now, nobody ever heard of these flags except nerds like me. But now all of a sudden, my God, he had the pine tree flag. The pine tree flag! Oh, my God! The damn pine tree flag! Which was also carried by some rioters at the Capitol on January 6th. I also understand many of them had driver's licenses. I guess those are now to be disposed of, Mr. Producer. In backpacks, we should dispose. How many of them actually wore watches? Watches. An upside-down flag directly connected to the insurrectionist movement, he writes, is not grounds for recusal. This is even more so the case for this flag. It was designed by Colonel Joseph Reed, who served as the personal secretary to George Washington. And the flag was used by the Navy as early as 1775 as many cultural and symbolic purposes. But it doesn't matter. Little Dick Durbin and Shelley, racist White House, they have their narrative fed to them by the Stalin-supporting, Hitler-censoring, and Castro-installing New York Times. And now you know the rest of the story. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All over the world, our enemies are on the move. And in our own country, same thing. Things are tough between rising prices, election issues, a $34 trillion debt. But folks, there is good news. If you're smart, you can use these problems to your advantage. By making the right choices right now, you can keep your retirement money safe and even make more money in this climate. That's where Advantage Gold comes in. They're experts in helping Americans protect their savings with gold and silver. It's called diversification. Call Advantage Gold today, 800-900-8000. They'll send send you a free 2024 gold and silver kit that tells you how to keep your money safe when things are bad. Tell them I sent you, and you may qualify for a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000. See if you qualify for that special discount worth up to $1,300. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professionals. Yellow. By the way, you know what my wife and I have been watching? This channel that's on YouTube somewhere. I can't remember. She would remember. We're watching old Dean Martin roast shows. Have you ever seen those, Mr. Producer? They're hilarious. Like from the 1970s and 1980s. The old comedians who were absolutely fantastic, and they said things you could never get away with today. And there were black comedians saying things about black people and white people. Jewish comedians saying things about Irish, Italian, and Jews. Italians, on and on. Everybody, they just got along great. They joked about stereotypes. And then I'm watching these various specials on Don Rickles. Don Rickles would be destroyed today. Don Rickles could not exist today. He could not exist today. And we're starting to watch these old Johnny Carson shows. And you look at the people who are doing these shows tonight on these networks. They are so pathetic. They're not funny. They're he was hilarious. He was classy. He was a gentleman. You look at this Colbert. Who are the other two? I don't even remember. It doesn't even matter. They're just punks. Punks. They couldn't hold a candle to Carson. I shall return. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877. By the way, our buddy Peter Schweitzer will be on in 20 minutes. And also, we have two great specials this weekend on Life, Liberty, and Levin. 8 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Sunday. I think you're going to enjoy them. We put them together, special packages. I know you'll enjoy it. So here's my suggestion. Set your DVR just in case. Maybe you're out to dinner with your beautiful wife. Maybe you're out to dinner with your handsome husband. Maybe you're out to dinner by yourself. Maybe you're out to lunch. I don't know. But you ought to check them out. I think you're going to like them a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, are we going to accept the outcome of the 2024 election? How come the media don't talk about what's happening before the 2024 election? Meet the depressed? Nothing. Caitlin Collins? Yammering away? Low IQ and all? Nothing. Are you going to accept the election? Well, I don't know. Let's check this out from M.D. Kittle over one of our favorite sites, thefederalist.com. Yes. As the House voted yesterday to bar foreign nationals from voting in local Washington, D.C. elections, listen up. Democrats and their public relations team and the corporate media have rolled out the big guns in attacking such election integrity efforts. They're painting the legislation that ensures non-citizens cannot vote in the elections as the next so-called big lie. Sticking to their well-worn narrative that non-citizens already are prohibited from voting in U.S. elections and that such violations don't exist because they know they checked every one. How could they? No voter ID? Well, they just know. They look at a person. But one of the fiercest opponents of the election integrity legislation has said the quiet part out loud, and we have tried to get this man on their show at least a dozen times, as Democrats are wont to do. As Fox News reported, U.S. Representative Jamie Raskin, Communist Maryland, wrote a full-throated defense of alien suffrage, quote-unquote, in a 1993 paper for American University Washington College of Law. Did you know this, Mr. Professor? I didn't know this. Jamie the Red Raskin? I'm sure Bernie the Red Sanders agrees with Jamie the Red Raskin. Hello! In 1993, he wrote a paper for the American University Washington College of Law in defense of alien suffrage, where he serves as professor of law emeritus. Right now, Raskin is the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, which, among other things, has constitutional oversight of the District of Columbia. In this article, wrote at Raskin, I will argue that the current blanket exclusion of non-citizens from the ballot is neither constitutionally required nor historically normal. See, this is a sick bastard, this guy. He hates the Constitution. He hates people who drafted it. He hates the people who adopted it. He hates the people who ratified it. And he hates constitutionalists. But we turn to him to interpret the Constitution. Doesn't that make sense? Moreover, the disenfranchisement of aliens at the local level is vulnerable to deep theoretical objections, since resident aliens who are governed, taxed, often drafted just like citizens, have a strong democratic claim to being considered members, indeed citizens, of their local communities. So illegal aliens are indeed citizens of their local communities. That's what Jamie Raskin says. He goes on. Not surprisingly, Raskin the Red was among 143 Democrats voting against. Is Caitlin Collins out there? Caitlin, is that you? Caitlin, low IQ and all. Are you out there, Caitlin? How about, what is the woman at Meet the Depressed? Another nitwit. Anyway, he was one of 143 Democrats voting against Republican-led bill blocking illegal aliens and other foreign nationals from voting in elections in the District of Columbia, over which Congress has ultimate authority. Interestingly, 52 Democrats joined Republicans in passing the measure, because the vast majority of Americans believe and know that only U.S. citizens should be allowed to vote in local and U.S. elections. Taking the opposing view is not a smart re-election strategy for politically vulnerable liberals. Several cities in Raskin's home state have allowed foreign nationals to vote in local elections for years. Tacoma Park, Maryland, which is sort of a small Moscow, if you will, in November celebrated its 30th anniversary, quote, of the first non-U.S. residents, unquote, voting in Washington, D.C. suburb. Aren't they swell? They're so forward-looking. They're so futuristic. Quote, even if it's only a handful voting in elections, it is more than that. It's a huge step forward for democracy, said Seth Grimes, a leftist community organizer, in an official city press release. Oh, what a place to live. Now, I have a better idea. And I've proposed this idea before, Mr. Producer, in America. Why do we go through the motions of having an immigration system, or emotions of the motions of having a valid voting system? Why do we have to force people to trek all the way from communist China or Islamo-Nazi Tehran or the police state called North Korea? Why do we have to force these poor people to trek all the way from hell to here to cross our border? Why not just give them a ballot? Why don't we just send them to the 8 billion people who live in the world? I solved the problem, Mr. Producer. I solved the problem. Why not send them all food stamps and credit cards like they do in New York City? I mean, everybody's a human being. Everybody has a right to equality. Everybody has a right to eat and housing. Everybody has a right. So why do we force them to trek over mountains, through valleys, through rivers, cross oceans to get to a racist, white-dominated, imperialist, colonialist America? I don't understand. Just send them the ballots. I think that's the most humane thing to do. Yes. Polling shows an overwhelming number of Americans don't share Grimes's point of view, or the one expressed in Raskin the Red's law school report, a national poll conducted last year for Americans for Citizens Voting. It must be a white supremacist right-wing group. Found 75% of respondents were opposed to allowing foreign nationals vote in their local elections. Every vote counts. But what if it's illegal? Every vote counts. Now, in his 1993 paper, Raskin the Red argued that the emergence of a global market and the corresponding dilution of national boundaries. Oh, he thinks he's an intellectual. No, he's not. He's a mushbrain. Would invite us to treat local governments as polities of presence, in which all community inhabitants, not just those who are citizens of the subordinate nation state, form the elect. Now listen, this is a guy who's he's pedantic. He's trying to sound intelligent. The most preposterous idea. Polities of presence, which all community inhabitants, he means the population, not just those who are citizens of the subordinate nation state, the subordinate nation state. You see what he means? There's no American sovereignty. They form the electorate. Alien suffrage would thus become part of a basic human right to democracy, wrote the congressman. Does Raskin still feel that way? His office didn't return the Federalist request for a comment. After Thursday vote, it's not a leap to suspect many of Raskin the Red's fellow Democrats support foreign nationals voting in a local election. Caitlin Collins, are you going to do a story on this? Will you invite Raskin the Red? Will you grill him in your so thoroughly substantive and intelligent way? I ask the questions. You answer the questions. Yes. Corporate media, of course, have been running interference for Democrats in the weeks since former President Trump, the GOP's presumed presidential nominee, and Speaker Mike Johnson announced the rollout of the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, clearly written by the Proud Boys. The SAVE Act is aimed at shoring up glaring holes in the 30-year-old National Voter Registration Act, passed during a simpler time, when politicians believed in borders, when politicians believed in voter ID, when politicians believed that you sign and date your absentee ballots. They were all racists, even the blacks. That's right. Anybody who supported this. The bill would amend the 1993 motor voter law to require individuals to provide proof of citizenship. My God. Before they are automatically registered to vote at state departments and so forth. Well, the Democrats are loath to do so. And this is why their media go on and on about, will you accept the election results? Will you? Will you accept the election results, even though no voter ID, no signature, no dates, voter harvesting after the votes, voting 2 months before the votes? Will you? Yes, no, maybe so. And what's wrong with illegal aliens voting? As Raskin said, and he's a constitutional scholar, you understand this. Alien suffrage would thus become part of a basic human right to democracy. Democracy, it's the polities of presence. The subordinate nation state shouldn't determine if we have a vote from an alien. Oh, okay. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
We're so fortunate in this country to have a military of men and women who voluntarily lay their lives on the line for us. But when their service ends, transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's why Pure Talk proudly helps support America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to prevent veteran suicide. This is very important. You can join the fight when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and help Pure Talk support this great charity. Remember, Pure Talk was founded by a veteran. Through the end of the month, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Folks, choose a wireless company that shares your values. Upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network. Just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. puretalk.com/Levin. Make the switch, folks. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Levin. For superior cell phone service that's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk help our vets. We're here with the great Peter Schweitzer. My buddy, Peter, how are you, brother?
I'm great, Mark. Great to be with you as always, my friend.
It's a pleasure. And you texted me, and it was very, very important, I felt. You broke on this story. You broke this story on this show in 2018 that Hunter Biden traveled on Air Force Two with Joe Biden, his father, to China. And this committee, oversight committee, has released some emails. So what more do we know about this trip between with the Bidens going to Communist China on Air Force Two?
Great question, Mark. Yeah, in 2018, when we broke this story, we knew that Hunter had traveled with his dad on Air Force Two in December of 2013. Official trip as vice president, obviously. And we know that Hunter met with his Chinese business partner at that time. And we suggested that Joe Biden might have met his business partner. We didn't know for sure. What these new emails confirm is that absolutely Hunter Biden, he's talking to Devin Archer, he's in China, he says, I'm here with my dad. Devin Archer asks him, did your dad meet Jonathan Lee, your business partner? This is a Chinese businessman. And Hunter said, yes, it was great. The meeting was great. So it confirms something that Joe Biden has long denied. He denied it in 2020 during the campaign. He denied it before that. He's continued to deny it afterwards. And that's the simple notion that he's ever met with any of Hunter Biden's business partners. And what's interesting about this December 2013 meeting is that about 10 days after Joe and Hunter Biden returned from China on Air Force Two, that's when Hunter gets his stake in the Chinese private equity company that's funded by the Chinese government. That is estimated to be worth $20 million to Hunter Biden. So that comes 10 days after this Chinese businessman, lo and behold, gets to meet the vice president of the United States.
Joe Biden is a pathological liar, isn't he, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, he has willfully deceived the American people on so many different levels. The other thing that's interesting about this email exchange, Mark, is that there's a dinner. President Xi and Vice President Joe Biden have a dinner, and Hunter Biden is there. And Devin Archer asks him, how did the dinner go with your dad and Xi? And Hunter Biden reports, well, they were supposed to meet for 2 hours. They ended up meeting for 7. And in Hunter Biden's words, he tells Devin Archer, I think President Xi and my father, quote, are in love, end quote. And he says that I'm surprised when my dad left that they didn't kiss. So this is further confirmation.
Well, now, hold on. Did Joe sniff Xi's hair? This is a very critical question. Did he give him a massage on the way out the door?
No reporting on that. I think because Xi is an adult male, maybe he didn't do that the way that he does.
But, you're making a very, very important point. Here you have Hunter Biden. He has no expectation that his emails are going to be read.
Yep.
They had a dinner, as you point out. They were supposed to be together for a couple hours. They're there for 7 hours. And They really hit it off. And I think they're in love, he says, with each other. They almost kissed on departure. I mean, that's the words of Hunter Biden, who's in the meeting with his father. His father says he doesn't know anything about anything, doesn't know anything about anything. And he just keeps lying to the American people. His brother is doing business in Qatar. His brother's doing business with a massive hospital organization. All of this is linked again to the government and using Joe Biden's name. Everybody's getting rich. And Joe Biden doesn't know anything that's going on around him. He's getting phone calls. Dad, would you say hi to Zhang Ji here? Oh, okay. Playing golf with them, meeting with them. He doesn't know anything. It's such garbage. And the media do not give a damn, do they? Yeah,
no, you're right. And here's the thing, Mark. You would think the media would have enough self-respect to where he's lied to them. He has stared at the news media and said, I've never met his business partners. I have no involvement in those deals. He lied to them to their face. This is just further confirmation of that. And I'm willing to bet serious money that he's probably not going to be asked about this by anybody in the news media. Not that they're necessarily going to have a chance, given that he's not meeting with the press, but there's a sort of a lack of curiosity. But the other thing, Mark, I think it shows is corruption has consequences. people get kind of cynical and, okay, Joe Biden made money, Hunter made money, whatever. The fact is, in 2013, when Hunter Biden is relaying that his father and Xi are, quote unquote, in love, and I'm surprised they didn't kiss with each other, already at that time, President Xi has threatened Taiwan. He's already expanded the Chinese military to challenge the United States. He's already making the moves on those islands in the Pacific. The point is, he's already shown his aggressive face. He's already shown his posture towards the West, which is sort of this defiance and this anger. And yet here is Joe Biden just cooing with Xi. And that's the consequence of corruption, because Hunter wanted deals in China. His father wanted to have deals in China. We now know that when money flowed to the family, Joe Biden himself got at least several $100,000 out of that deal. So corruption matters because it has changed our approach to China and the threat that China represents to the United States.
It really is shocking. And it really does tell you a republic cannot survive long without a serious, professional, relatively objective media. It just cannot, because this is a story that should be headline on every newspaper, headline in any report today, and it's, oh, ho-hum, we're so sick of all this stuff. No. Instead, we got to talk about Donald Trump again, and with Xi, and not Xi, with Un and Putin. In other words, they have to concoct these phony stories instead of actually reporting something.
Yeah. I mean, look at the whole Stormy Daniels thing, and you've done a great job of dissecting the legal challenges. So, what is the implication of what they're saying there? How does that affect the country? How does that affect how Donald Trump would govern? It doesn't. But look at the corruption involving Joe Biden. It directly influences his approach to China to our detriment.
I want to hold you over, my brother, so don't hang up. That's Peter Schweitzer. He's one of a kind, a real journalist. We'll be right back. We're so fortunate in this country to have a military of men and women who voluntarily lay their lives on the line for us. But when their service ends, transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's why Pure Talk proudly helps support America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to prevent veteran suicide. This is very important. You can join the fight when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and help Pure Talk support this great charity. Remember, Pure Talk was founded by a veteran. Through the end of the month, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Folks, choose a wireless company that shares your values. Upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network. Just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch, folks. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Levin. For superior cell phone service that's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk help our vets.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with our friend Peter Schweitzer. Peter, when you consider that Antony Blinken is conflicted with Soros and Iran, special pleader for Iran, his family has very significant ties to Soros. Soros, in my view, was trying to destroy the United States and the state of Israel, among other things, and spends a lot of money funding these radical leftists, Marxists, Islamists. Then you look at Joe Biden. As I speak, China has surrounded the island of Taiwan. They have endless numbers of sorties violating Taiwan's airspace. It's constant. They've made it clear they intend to invade and conquer Taiwan and destroy it through missile attacks and ship attacks and so forth. We are not prepared to address this. We are not helping Taiwan in any significant way. So we're funding Iran, which funds the terrorists, and undermining Israel. China is basically getting away with whatever it wants to do. Their navy's bigger than ours. Their merchant ship force is far, far bigger than ours. And it's going to be almost impossible to get to Taiwan what Taiwan needs when that invasion occurs. Do you think this is in part due to the fact that these two people are so terribly conflicted?
I do. I mean, look, Mark, the only other explanation is that they're incredibly stupid and ignorant. And I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think certainly there are elements of their policies that I think are terrible. But no, I think they know exactly what's going on. And I think you put it well. We're in a position where America's allies, Taiwan and Israel, appear to get much more criticism from these individuals than our actual adversaries do. I mean, look at Tony Blinken. Tony Blinken, we've got this situation with fentanyl in the country. The House committee, bipartisan committee came out, reinforced what I've been saying, what you and I have talked about. China is behind the fentanyl crisis. What does Tony Blinken say? Tony Blinken on CBS News says, well, yeah, we know that these fentanyl precursors are coming and that this is killing 100,000 Americans, but, you know, these precursors are probably kind of arriving by accident, by mistake. I mean, he literally said that on national television. Nobody believes that. Nobody thinks that. And yet here he is making these absurd statements in defense of China. Joe Biden will not challenge China. He will not raise the fentanyl issue. He will not hold their feet to the fire, even though this is killing 100,000 Americans every year. So you have to ask yourself, why is that? Are they really that naive? I don't think so. Joe Biden was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for a long time. He kind of knows what's going on in the world, you want to think. And yet, they make these decisions. So I do think the entanglements that they have, the financial entanglements, are real. This is the reason why elected officials are supposed to disclose their finances so we know what they might be favoring. Do they have a bunch of investments in big tech? Is that persuading their view on big tech? That's why we do it. And with the Biden family, let's remember, they've received some $31 million from Chinese businessmen beginning when he was vice president, and they have literally done nothing. There is no tangible service, product, or anything that they've done in return for that. That's what maybe buying a president or at least renting a president looks like.
And wherever Biden goes, China seems to follow. I mean, this so-called Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C., where he did literally nothing and made $900,000 a year, heavily funded by the Communist Chinese. Why would the Communist Chinese fund a fake think tank? And there's Biden taking $900,000 a year unless they wanted to buy the guy.
Yeah, exactly. And the Chinese call this elite capture. That's their term for it, not mine. And this is a custom case, a clear case of elite capture. And Mark, when they talk in their literature about elite capture, this notion, what they're looking for, in their words, is big help with a little bad mouth. In other words, they understand Joe Biden may have to say something about human rights in China occasionally. He may have to say something about the Uyghurs. They don't care. They know that politicians have to do that to be viable. What they want help in is the big stuff, and that is unfettered access to our technology, to our capital markets, i.e. Wall Street, and they want unfettered access to our markets. And that's what Joe Biden has given them. He's curtailed a lot of the things that Donald Trump was doing to stand up to China, making things difficult for China, and that's why China absolutely has a clear preference in this 2024 election, and that is that they want Joe Biden to be reelected.
Isn't it funny how they try and constantly tie Trump to the world's genocidal maniacs, and yet it is Biden who has spent a lot of time getting along with him? I mean, he opposed Reagan when Reagan was taking on the Soviet Union and taking on Nicaragua and taking on Libya and all the rest of it. He was on the wrong side of all that. He was on the wrong side with Trump. Trump had Iran under control, China under control, Russia under control. Everything is out of control now. And your points are very, very important and profound because it's not just policy. There's things that have taken place under the radar, personally benefiting certain of these individuals. And that's why, I mean, you have China today. There was a report out yesterday. They are ethnic cleansing the Tibetans. Yeah. Obviously, we know they're ethnic cleansing the Uyghurs. And he spends all his time with blood libels in Israel claiming that they're destroying Gazan citizens. I mean, what the hell is that?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so ridiculous. NBC News had a story today, Mark, where they said, Putin probably wants Trump to win. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is look at the history. Vladimir Putin has invaded Ukraine twice. He did it in 2014, And then he did it in 2022 under Joe Biden. He invaded under Barack Obama. He didn't take any military action during the Trump administration. And then when Trump was out of office, he moves into Ukraine again. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous to assert that there's a preference here for Donald Trump. The fact is things were much more orderly. There was a fear. And you've now got Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in Congress introducing this ridiculous bill, which is so manipulative, which says it's clearly targeted at Trump, saying American presidents should not be allowed to take foreign money. That means even if they're invested in multinational corporations in the stock, here's how manipulative that is, Mark. The bill does not include the son of the president or vice president getting tens of millions of dollars from China for doing absolutely nothing. So they are manipulative and they're playing these games. They're not serious about it. And the problem is this is perilous for our country. Our founders warned about this. They warned about our political leaders being bought off. They were worried most, of course, about Great Britain. They're worried about our leaders being bought off by foreign adversaries, and that's absolutely what China has been doing with this strategy of elite capture.
And so is Qatar, right? Qatar has spent billions and billions of dollars to influence our colleges and universities. For lobbyists who were former members of Congress of both parties. They've bought into different sports franchises. They put $5 million into the memorial that's being built for the Medal of Honor winners. I mean, they're spreading their money around. There's a tiny speck on the map. It is an inbred, imposed monarchy that happens to be on the most oil-rich, tiny piece of land on the face of the earth. And they've bought influence in our country while they're harboring the leaders of Hamas, while they're spending money on terrorism, and while they're undermining the United States. And Biden just extended for 10 years our military base there. It's the same thing. Yeah. His brother was doing business or trying to do business with top Qatari businessmen. I mean, this is all so sleazy, is it not?
Yeah. Look, Biden family members were not going to Germany or Japan or Great Britain seeking legitimate business deals. They're going to Ukraine, Russia, China, and Qatar, which are all deeply corrupt countries. And here's the other thing, Mark. I mean, we see all the ridiculousness of college campus administrators, and they're failing to stand up to these protesters. They're required under the 1965 Education Act to report foreign donations. That's actually in the law. And yet they don't do that, or they hide them. So you have Qatari, quote-unquote, charities that are set up in Canada, but it's financed and funded by the Qataris. They make a donation to an American university. The American university is not listed as a donation from Qatar. They list it as a donation from Canada. So they're masking and trying to hide. We don't know the full amount of foreign money that is flowing to college campuses or where it's coming from, because they hide. Yale University, one of their biggest funders in terms of foreign donations, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, is the island of Guernsey. I don't even know where the island of Guernsey is. It's off the coast of the UK. It's a tax shelter. Chinese businessmen have set up charities in Guernsey, and they are donating to Yale, and Yale is claiming these donations are not Chinese, they're from Guernsey. So they're trying to hide it because they know how bad it looks.
And I remember, Peter Schweitzer, in a minute or two we have left, remember Wang, remember Chung, and remember the 1990s, all this money flowing into the DNC and the Clinton campaign from the communist Chinese military? I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars in brown paper bags and so forth and so on. And Janet Reno wouldn't even appoint an independent counsel back then to investigate it. The Chinese have been buying off Democrat leaders for decades now.
Yeah, that's right. And those
Charlie Wang, I think his name was, something like that.
Yes, John Wang. That's
Wang,
right. Yeah, John Wang. And those guys were corrupt. They were CCP members. They were involved in Chinese organized crime. And if you look at the money that the Bidens have received, in 2017, Mark, they got, and they don't dispute this, a $5 million interest-free forgivable loan from a Chinese businessman named Yuan. He gave them $5 million, which they've never given back. At the time, he was business partners with a guy in China, a criminal gang leader named White Wolf, who set up the Sinaloa cartel in the drug trade, the fentanyl drug trade. So literally the Bidens have 1 degree of separation from the people that are poisoning America. Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of businessmen they are taking money from.
Sounds like Hawaii Five-0. What did you say, Charlie? What was his name?
White Wolf.
White Wolf, yeah, White Wolf. Okay. Peter Schweitzer, any website? You want to mention your book before we go?
Yeah, the book Blood Money came out in February. We did the first interview with Mark, and appreciate that. And you can find me on Twitter at Peter Schweitzer, or you can go to peterschweitzer.com.
All right, my brother. Thanks for everything. Have a great weekend now.
Thanks, Mark.
Peter's the best. He's really, really good. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
We're so fortunate in this country to have a military of men and women who voluntarily lay their lives on the line for us. But when their service ends, transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's why Pure Talk proudly helps support America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to prevent veteran suicide. This is very important. You can join the fight when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and help Pure Talk support this great charity. Remember, Pure Talk was founded by a veteran. Through the end of the month, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Folks, choose a wireless company that shares your values. Upgrade your cell phone service to America's most dependable 5G network. Just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch, folks. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN. Levin. For superior cell phone service, that's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. And to help Pure Talk help our vets. Are you going to accept the election results no matter what? Of course, the Democrats are not required to do that. God willing, Trump will win, and they'll throw a fit, which means cities will be turned upside down. I believe this. GOP committee sounds alarm on document. It says confirms fears about Biden agency's activities in key state. This is Fox. I'm sure it's not on CNN, MSNBC, or the other reprobate news platforms. The House Committee on Small Business has released a memorandum of understanding between the Biden administration and the state of Michigan, which it fears represents a potential unconstitutional agreement that is aimed at registering voters in the key swing state with a political agenda in mind. This you got to hear. This you have to hear. This you have to hear. You won't hear it on the Constipated News Network. They're all corrupt bastards, but you'll hear it here. I'll be right back.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Next week, we already have booked President Donald Trump. Correct, Mr. Producer? Senator Ted Cruz, right, Mr. Producer? And others. And others. And we always are welcome for important people to contact us. And by important, I don't mean by breeding or degrees. I mean that have an impact on our life from different walks of life. Some politicians, well, they wear us down. We invite them on. We don't hear back. Then they can't do it that time. How about another time? We have to go through the comms person. We just give up. I don't really care. I don't really care. This isn't a GOP show anyway. This is a show about substance and all kinds of stuff. The House Committee on Small Business has released an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, between the Biden administration and the state of Michigan, which means Biden and the governor, which it fears represents a potentially unconstitutional agreement that is aimed at registering voters in the key swing state of Michigan with a political agenda in mind. Biden's Small Business Administration, the SBA, announced a memorandum of understanding, again, an MOU, in March with the Michigan Department of State to, quote, promote civic engagement and voter registration in Michigan, unquote, that it called the, quote, first of its kind collaboration, unquote, that immediately raised questions from the committee. The federal government shouldn't have anything to do with any of this. And Biden knows it. He's been around long enough. So you understand now, Caitlin, she doesn't. She's a moron. She's an imbecile, but that's why she's at CNN. Why Republicans aren't so quick to say, well, sure, I'll accept the results. This is crooked. This is illegal. This is going on right now. Right now. Why you accept the results? Well, why don't you report on what's taking place? All these nimrods on the Sunday shows. Report what's taking place. Some media are covering it, like Fox. Now, the MOU, which has been uploaded to the Congressional Repository, outlines the coordination between Michigan and the Biden regime, where the state will, quote, provide the agency access to training resources related to the online Michigan Voter Information Center. And the agency shall provide voter registration training to all personnel conducting activities under this memorandum of understanding. They're bureaucrats. The vast majority, not all, we have some patriotic bureaucrats, but the vast majority of bureaucrats are Democrats. And so this is a bureaucrat to bureaucrat, federal bureaucrat to state bureaucrat training how to get people registered to vote, Mr. Producer. This training, I quote, shall include information on who is eligible to register to vote, the interactions during which agency staff must make voter registration services available, instructions to agency staff on how to refer individuals to register to vote online, and an overview of additional information that is available to voters, the MOU continued. The MOU also discusses how the Michigan Department of State could, quote, create a unique URL for the SBA to use to drive online visitors to register the vote. In other words, people who are on the public dole, not all of whom are Democrats, but most of them, they're registering them to vote. And by the way, it's not just Michigan. It's not just the SBA. Anybody that gets some form of welfare and so forth and so on, they're being told how to register to vote. So if you're a person that doesn't use a lot of government, kind of mind your own business, pays the taxes for all this crap. On the other hand, if you're a person that is on welfare and is on the public dole and so forth, the latter is being told you need to register to vote by the very agencies that are funneling your tax dollars to them. Now, what do you think of that? The committee told Fox News Digital that they released the documentation in the interest of transparency and after seeing the MOU. The committee's previous concerns that the program is unconstitutional and an improper use of taxpayer funds were not assuaged. Seeing the MOU with Michigan does nothing to ease our concerns about the SBA getting involved in federal elections, said committee chairman Roger Williams. I'm told this is a good guy, by the way. Don't know anything about him, actually. In fact, this agreement confirms SBA employees are preparing to undergo trainings on how to best register voters rather than spend their time working to help struggling small businesses, said the chairman. I encourage all Americans to look at this agreement and decide if this is how they want their tax dollars spent. The SBA must end all this electioneering activities on behalf of Biden, get back to their sole mission of supporting the needs of Main Street. The committee, who has referred to the Michigan agreement as the state essentially serving as a campaign arm for Biden's reelection, also released maps that overlay former SBA events, census data, Michigan Department of State data, and publicly reported information of Democrat-targeted voter blocks, which they say suggest possible areas that voter registration efforts will target when the effort is officially rolled out. You believe this? This is sick. So, Mr. Producer, let's go ahead and put this on all of our platforms, this article. And ladies and gentlemen, you can link to the article, and when you scroll down towards the bottom, or actually the bottom, I'd say, article from about a third up, 2/3 down in the article, you can read the memorandum yourself, and you can make it available. And if you live in Michigan, you better look at this. If you live in Michigan, you better look at it. Do they not have any Republican district attorneys in Michigan? I know the attorney generals are ratfink, but do they not have any Republican district attorneys? Where are they? Their district attorneys make up crimes out of whole cloth and use it against a former president running for president. Where are our district attorneys in Michigan? Where the hell are they? Well, we go by the book over here in Michigan. It's what we do. I want you to go by the book, and I want you to use it against them. What else is Biden doing to the country? He's destroying it in so many ways, it's hard to keep track. Bill Maloogian. This guy deserves a Pulitzer Prize. Will he ever get one? No. He actually goes to the border. He actually reports. He gets dirt under his fingernails. He literally puts his life on the line. This guy is terrific, this Bill Maloogian. He's in Jacumba, California. Where is that, Mark? How the hell do I know? Jacumba, California. And by the way, I saw this clip on Fox. Folks, people are strolling in like it's a picnic right across the border. And they're mostly men. Young men. And they're strolling in by the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. They're just watching it. And they're stunned. They're like, where's the Border Patrol? Somebody needs to, arrest us, put us in the process so we can go through the rest of the United States and get our benefits. They're wondering, where the hell's the Border Patrol? Well, there's not enough Border Patrol that can handle this overwhelming number of illegal aliens that Joe Biden is bringing into the country. This is a very, very serious matter. It can't be reversed right away. The people who are here illegally, it's going to be very difficult to deport them all. It's going to be very difficult to find them all. We don't even know who most of them are. Coming into our neighborhoods, coming into our communities, using our resources. Who the hell are they? Oh, you must be a racist. No, I'm an American. So there's Bill Maloogian. He's in Jacumba, California. That's in America, last time I checked. Listen to this. Cut 12, go.
We talked to one Turkish man who told us he essentially sold everything he had to be able to come here to the United States and cross the border. He told us he was shocked at how easy it was, how there was no resistance when he crossed over. And he said that Americans should be worried that it was so easy, and they should also worry about the kind of people crossing the border. Take a listen. Did you have to pay a cartel?
Yes.
How much?
Around 10,000.
10,000?
Wow. Yes. In fact, the American people is right. Completely true. Who come into this country, they don't know. Well, okay, I'm good. But how if they're not good? How they killer, psychopath else? No guarantee of that. Why? Like no security, no security check. No background check.
No security check, no background check. You're worrying about who's crossing the border?
Yes. Of course, me, because I'm like, people are not look normal.
This guy has more sense than Biden, more sense than every Democrat in America. He's saying, yeah, I came across, it was simple. I'm a good guy. But there's no security. There's bad guys crossing too. He says there's bad guys crossing too. He says, in fact, American people is right. Completely true. Who comes into this country? They don't know. Okay, I'm good. But what if they're not good? What if they're killers, psychopaths, something else? No guarantee of that, like no security check, no background check. This is an illegal alien from Turkey who obviously is concerned about the kinds of other people who are coming across the border. He sees them. Why isn't Biden concerned? Schumer with his phony bipartisan drama bill. Why aren't the Democrats concerned? Because they are consumed with power. They are consumed with controlling you. Changing our country for the party's sake. They don't give a damn about the consequences. They talk about the citizens in Gaza. 100,000 Americans dead a year from fentanyl. The material comes from China. Peter Schweitzer's pointed this out. It's processed by the drug cartels. The drug cartels are worth tens of billions of dollars. They run Mexico. And they're going to run our cities before it's over. My God. Here's this guy from Turkey. Guy's from Turkey. He pays the smugglers $10,000. Says, look, I'm a good guy. I'm not going to do any damage to anybody. I'm coming in here illegally. But there are people coming in here, you don't know who they are. It takes an illegal alien to tell us the truth. My God. Then you have people like Ana Navarro on CNN. This woman is an imbecile in 2 languages. Just a heinous, snot-nosed punk with a camera in her face and a microphone in her mouth. And she is nasty. She is poisonous. And she is exactly what CNN and MSNBC and The View and all the rest of them want. Day in and day out. People like this. Cut 13, go.
And then the third thing, Jim, and this is the truth, and you and I know this as Latinos, there are some Latino immigrants who forget they came here as immigrants and who want to shut the door behind them and who think being anti-immigrant somehow is going to make them pass as more American.
That's not what they think, you a-hole, you complete putz. They see that open borders doesn't work. They see that open borders brings crime and drugs and rapists, brings child molesters. It brings MS-13. It brings Venezuelan gangs. They see that open borders results in women being raped, little girls and boys being raped, sold into sex slavery. You jerk, you clown, you put down Latinos. Oh, I can do that because I'm a Latino. No, you can't. They don't think like you jerk. You jerks on CNN, of course. Well, you want to shut the door behind them? Shut the door behind them. Yeah, we want to shut the door and process people normally. That's so horrendous, isn't it, America? We have almost 14 million foreigners in this country in the last less than 14 million. 14 million, we believe. Nothing is stopping them. I heard some liberal guy on TV, what we need are more administrative law judges. You can't have enough administrative law judges for this. Plus, our own history tells us over decades, you give people a date to show up and they don't show up. And what we need is more administrative law judges. More drones to watch the border. Yeah. No, we need a secure border and throw people out as soon as they step into the country. How many more people had to be raped and killed? How many more military bases have to be breached? And you better believe, like this gentleman from Turkey said, you better believe that the enemy is pouring into this country. We saw some of it over the last few months. The Hitler Youth, the Islamists, teaming up with the Marxists. We saw them. We saw the violence still going on at UCLA with the genius president there. Well, you know, we have a community here, and we reach out to all communities. Oh, yes, all communities, including the Hitler. Oh, yes, they have a right to free speech. At least they're not carrying, the George Washington flag like Alito had at his house. That's a real spectacle. And Navarro, how does a lightweight moron in 2 languages get a TV presence? I'm just curious. What do they just grab people off the street? Talk about Latinos. There are a lot of accomplished, smart, thoughtful Latinos. She's not one of them. But she spews the usual left-wing tripe, the radical left-wing tripe. And she was a Republican. Oh, yes, she's one of those. Oh, yeah. Like Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and all the other guys. Oh, she's one of those, yeah. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, don't forget to set your DVR 8 p.m. tomorrow night, Saturday, 8 p.m. Sunday night. That's Eastern time, and then you can adjust your times depending on where you live. So you can watch two really great specials on Life, Liberty, and Levin. I know you're going to be doing other things, so go ahead and set your DVR just in case. Here's Kristen Holmes, a reporter at CNN yesterday, about what she saw in the Bronx. Cut 3, go.
Well, certainly a bigger crowd than I think Democrats would like to see, particularly given this is one of the bluest counties in the entire country. Now, one of the things that was interesting to me is that the Trump campaign said that they were going to micro-target to get people from the community to come to this rally. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've gone to a lot of these rallies across the country, and there are often people who travel hundreds of miles to see Donald Trump, and they're not necessarily part of the community. However, one of the things that I found was that there were a lot of people here that were actually from the Bronx. Before we even came into the rally, so that, of course, once we were in, it was all people supporting him. But before we actually even came in, we talked to a number of people outside in the community, and the reaction to him being here was really mixed. You had people saying he doesn't belong here, he should get out, but you also had a number of people, voters, who told me that they had supported Biden in 2020. They were very unhappy, particularly with the state of the economy, and they were looking for alternatives, namely former President Donald Trump Anderson.
Uh-oh. Now, keep in mind, he's not going to win the Bronx. He doesn't have to win the Bronx. He just needs to win enough voters in the Bronx and other boroughs in New York, in Chicago and Detroit, in Philadelphia and L.A. Well, in any event, you understand what I mean. He's got to chip away at the Democrat Party base. And I think something is happening out there. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Something is happening out there. I'll be right back.
The Mark Levin Show, the pool feed for the conservative media. Dive in now. 877-381-3811.
We want to welcome Mario Fratto to the show. He's running against Claudia Tenney, New York 24 GOP Republican primary. Mario Fratto, how are you, sir?
Good, Mark. Thanks so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it because I know
let me set it up. Let me set it up. You're very upset about the interview with Claudia Tenney. Tell us why and tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I'm somebody who's never run for office till 2022. I ran back in 2022 for New York 24. My family's been up here in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes area, Geneva, for 5 generations. I got a young son, 2 years old. My wife and I got another on the way. Ran for office against Claudia in a 3-way primary last time, and we got over 40% of the vote. With the third guy in, almost pulled it off, and we ran a great race. And right after that race, I called Claudia to concede, and on the phone call, while I was congratulating her, she told me she had been secretly recording me and all these. All right.
Hold on. I don't want to get into this kind of stuff. You wanted to respond to allegations. I want the country to know who you are out of your own, your own voice. But I can't do the back and forth here. It's a national show. I want you, if you want to defend yourself against what was said, that's fine by me, or explain who you are. I don't want to get into all this tit for tat stuff. Go ahead.
Well, just to say, she told me that she was going to run this type of race, and now I heard your show. I guess it was the night before last, and she came on and she made some really, baseless allegations about me that were really.
That's why I'm giving you an opportunity before time runs out. Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So she said that Nick Fuentes was running my campaign. I've never met nor spoken to Mr. Fuentes. I have no affiliation with him whatsoever. She said I was anti-Semitic and that I said that I didn't say anything. I was silent on October 7th. I put out a press release that day condemning the attack, saying we stand with Israel. I put it on Facebook, Twitter, all the local media. I think this is because we are in a tough race because I am a conservative candidate. I am very right of center. She said I'm too far right, and I don't think I am. I mean, Mark, are you the editor-in-chief of Conservative Review still?
We don't really do Conservative Review anymore, but yes.
Okay. So that that you guys give out Liberty scores, and she has a 56% F grade based on her voting record. I think she's rated on 32 votes.
I don't think we do that much anymore, though. Let me ask you a question. This Nick Fuentes, what do you think of him?
I don't know much about him other than I've heard that he is very anti-Semitic. I don't really know the guy and think Trump.
Well, he had a few of his thugs confront me at CPAC, about 8 or 9 of them when I went in there, and I confronted them back, by the way. Let me ask you this. Sure. Your campaign consultant, does your campaign consultant partner with Nick Fuentes? This isn't an allegation, it's a question.
I have no idea, but I would say no, or I would not be working with somebody like that.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm a conservative guy. I want to secure the border. I want to get our traditional values back in place in America. And me and Claudia on the positions, we just really differ. I mean, there's times where, she wanted to send a lot of money overseas to Ukraine. I didn't like that. I don't want us involved in the wars, but I don't think that means that I'm somebody who is anti-American or an isolationist. And I'm just a traditional conservative guy. And I think that she misled people on your show, not only about me, but also on policy, because she was saying to you, and I think you told her, well, she's as solid as she can be in the district she's in. Well, she switched districts, so when she won that vote with 100 votes in a recount,
Guys, why do we have to do this? I'm bringing you on because you felt what she said about you was false, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to speak for yourself.
That's why. Because she's saying that basically all these baseless allegations about me, because I ran the best primary race with the little money and time we had, 90 days last time, got 40%, and she promised me this is the type of race she'd run, and she's doing it. And I think it's unfair because people like myself don't have the platforms to reach out.
All right, but now you're on a national show. I gave you a platform.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Who endorses you?
Paul Gosar and the Freedom Caucus, they invited me down. The
whole Freedom Caucus endorsed you?
No, they invited me in to speak to the Freedom Caucus.
So who in the Freedom Caucus endorsed you?
Paul Gosar.
Anyone else?
Currently, no.
That's all right. I'm just asking you a question.
Recently. Yeah.
And any conservative tax group or some other group endorse you that we might know about?
The conservative party up here, this is a big district, so there's 14 counties now, but the Orleans County Conservative Party endorsed me. Last time in the race, I had a couple counties and even a
How about the NRA? Party. Have they endorsed you?
No, but again, they haven't rated me or anything, so I have no connection.
How about, I'm just going to issues that are important to me. Any pro-life group endorse you?
No, I mean, honestly, none of these groups have endorsed me because there's an incumbent Republican, so nobody's going to upset the apple cart.
Well, listen, I'm a lifetime member of the NRA, and they don't really care if you're an incumbent or not. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Have you sought their endorsement?
Issues like that. What's that?
Have you sought their endorsement?
Yeah, I filled out the survey, and to be honest, I don't know about navigating those issues. What I would say is those are
fair enough
where we differ. Claudia voted for a red flag law, right? I called out that issue, and she said, well, I knew it wasn't going to pass the Senate.
But I think she was endorsed by the NRA.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. That's the problem, that even if somebody's not as good on the issues, they get endorsements because they've been there.
But maybe they think that she's effective. I'm just saying it. I don't, you see, to say, well, the NRA is no good and this one's no good, I'm not buying into that. And by the way, you don't have to be endorsed by anybody to be a good candidate either. So that's fair enough, too.
Right,
I was just asking.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you do normally? Tell the American, tell us who you are. Go.
I had a law practice for 5 years. My family has a third-generation construction business that I'm running now. My dad got sick. He retired. I'm in business with my brothers, and I've been running that business for about 5 years. Like I said, never run for any political office. I studied the law, obviously. I studied constitutional law, and I think I have a good grasp of issues. And I'm a fifth-generation resident of this district, and Claudia moved from 150 miles just to run here. So I think I resonate with the people because I'm a working-class guy.
Now, you say resonate with the people. Do you think you're going to win this race?
I do. I truly do, and I think...
When is the election again?
June 25th.
Okay.
And we only lost by a couple thousand votes. Like I said, now we're heads up. There was a third candidate. And I just think that I don't want to run that kind of race. I want to run on the issues. She said that primary debates are the most important thing when she was in a
Here we go. I'm asking you about you because I don't want to keep bringing you each on. It's a national show that's one congressional district out of 535. But I felt you deserve a fair shot. So
and honestly, I truly appreciate that because most people don't do that. And I appreciate you having me on and actually showing the class and respect for somebody because they were serious allegations. And I'm glad that I have an opportunity to defend myself because, again, those things couldn't be further from the truth.
But I need to look into one thing. Your campaign consultant does not partner with Nick Fuentes on campaigns, correct?
No, and I have no idea where that's coming from.
Neither do I. That's why I'm asking you.
And Nick Fuentes, though, I think what was stated was that Nick Fuentes is running my campaign. And that's
yeah, but I know that's not the case because I looked into that. So that's why I'm asking you about this consultant. So you're saying no, he doesn't?
No.
Okay. Anything else?
And again, I just say that I would want people to check us out and look at me. Go to MarioForCongress.com. Look who I am. I have an intro video on there. It's 3.5 minutes. We have videos of all of our positions, and I think people can really take a look at this race and say that, look, Mark, I think you and I both agree on one thing. The Republican Party is not doing as well as they should be right now, and that we're fractured, and we need to unite, and we need real conservatives who are going to step up and stick to principle on the issues, not vote with the Democrats every other time. I never in my lifetime thought that I would see Republicans controlling the House and bringing Republican bills to the floor that get more Democrat votes than Republican.
Okay, they normally don't. It's a one-vote majority. That's part of the problem. Ukraine is losing to Russia.
I agree, but
hold on, let me finish. Ukraine is losing to Russia. I happen to support Ukraine. They were invaded. They gave up their nuclear weapons because Britain, Clinton in the United States, and Russia told them, if you give them up, we won't invade you, and they invaded them. I don't see it in America's best interest to have Russia on the border with Poland, Romania, and the Balkan states when Putin's threatening them. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I don't think any of that's good. I don't think you're wrong, but what I disagree with.
So why shouldn't we arm the Ukrainians?
Because I think that the only reason that the Democrats are even considering...
Forget about the Democrats. I don't give a damn about the Democrats. I care about the Ukrainians.
I think Americans are hurting really bad right now.
Yeah, they're hurting really bad, not because we're sending money to Ukraine, because we're sending money to Iran. Not because of Ukraine, because we're pissing away trillions of dollars on climate change. Because the border's wide open. Because we're changing our capitalist system to a socialist system. That's why, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, and it's because we're electing Republicans that vote for that, like Claudia Tenney. She was one of 30.
But I just asked you about Ukraine. I didn't even ask you about Claudia Tenney.
Well, but that's the point, is that it's Republicans like that are on the wrong side of so many issues. And
I don't think they're on the wrong side of that. You might say I'm on the wrong side, too, but it's important to know where you stand, and we know where you stand. One last one. I got 30 seconds. What did you think about voting for aid for Israel? Real quick.
What did I think about voting for aid for Israel?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I mean, at this point, I think Israel can do whatever Israel needs to do in an instant. And if they need our help, they'll ask for it. But I truly believe if we let Israel do what she wants, she'd defend herself perfectly fine. It would probably
but they do need arms, especially since Hamas is getting arms from Iran, and we're paying for them. Sir, I'm glad you were on. I gotta go. My producer's yelling in my ear. That's Mario Fratto in the 24th District. Thank you, sir. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Look, I do the best I can. Sometimes it's not good enough, I admit. I hope that was handled okay. By the way, the Frontier Airlines CEO sounds alarm on widespread airport wheelchair scam. He says there's massive rampant abuse of this special. I couldn't agree more. I see people go in wheelchairs on the plane and then walk off, and I'm sick and tired of it. You can tell people who need wheelchairs, and then you can tell people who don't. And everybody knows he's right and I'm right. It's disgusting. we go to America every Friday in honor of you. Here we go. The reason, ladies and gentlemen, for Memorial Day. Say a prayer, give a thought. Remember all those who are unable to celebrate with us and made this day possible. Don't forget Life, Liberty, and Levin tomorrow night, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Please set your DVR. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, and we have your backs in Israel, whether Biden does or not. Good night, Spritey and Griffey and Pepsi. Good night, Zelda, Smokey and Gigi. Good night, Indy and Patton and Rory and Marty and Barney. All our little furry boys. Good night, Dad. Good night, Mom. Good night, Leo. Good night, Joe. Good night, Bernie. Good night, Teddy. Good night, Lou. As the list gets longer and longer. Good night, America. I'll see you tomorrow night on Life, Liberty, and Levin. Have a fantastic weekend. And may all those souls who died defending us rest in peace. I'll see you later.